I have always been an adventurer, a pirate in search of hidden treasures and mysteries scattered across the world. My latest mission was to find a secret island, said to be home to unimaginable riches and ancient secrets. With my worn-out map and a loyal crew, we set off in search of this legendary place, navigating through unknown seas and facing furious storms. Our journey began on a crisp morning, the sun rising over the horizon as we hoisted the sails of our ship, the Sea Serpent. The crew, a motley group of seasoned sailors and daring newcomers, bustled about, preparing for the long voyage ahead. There was Jack, my first mate, a burly man with a heart of gold and nerves of steel. Then there was Sarah, our navigator, whose keen eyes and sharp mind had saved us from many a perilous situation. And finally, there was young Billy, eager and full of energy, always ready to prove himself. "Captain, the supplies are loaded, and the crew is ready," Jack reported, his voice steady and confident. "Good. Let's set sail," I replied, feeling a surge of excitement mixed with a hint of apprehension. This journey was unlike any other we had undertaken. The tales of the secret island were shrouded in mystery, and many had tried and failed to find it. As we sailed away from the familiar shores, the sea seemed to welcome us with open arms. The waves were gentle, and the wind filled our sails, pushing us forward with a sense of purpose. The first few days were uneventful, filled with the usual routines of a pirate's life at sea. We sang shanties, shared stories, and kept a vigilant watch for any signs of danger. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the water, Sarah approached me with a thoughtful expression. "Captain, I've been studying the map," she said, unfurling the ancient parchment on the deck. "There are markings here that I can't quite decipher. They seem to point to a specific location, but it's not clear." I examined the map closely, tracing the faded lines and symbols with my finger. "You're right, Sarah. These markings are unlike anything I've seen before, but they must hold the key to finding the island." Jack joined us, peering over my shoulder. "Maybe it's a code, something we need to figure out." We spent the next few days poring over the map, trying to unlock its secrets. The crew, sensing the importance of our task, offered their own insights and suggestions. It was a collective effort, and slowly but surely, we began to piece together the clues. "Look here," Billy exclaimed one afternoon, pointing to a series of symbols near the edge of the map. "These look like constellations. Maybe they align with the stars." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Of course, the stars. If we can match these symbols to the constellations, it might lead us to the island." That night, we gathered on the deck, the sky a canvas of twinkling stars. Sarah, with her keen sense of navigation, began to match the symbols on the map to the constellations above. It was a painstaking process, but the excitement in the air was palpable. "There, that one matches," Sarah said, her voice filled with triumph. "And that one too. We're on the right track." With renewed determination, we adjusted our course, following the celestial clues laid out before us. The sea, once calm and inviting, began to change. The waves grew larger, and the wind picked up, as if sensing our intent and testing our resolve. "Hold steady, men," I called out, gripping the wheel tightly. "We're getting closer." Days turned into weeks, and the journey grew more challenging. We encountered fierce storms that battered our ship, and treacherous waters that threatened to pull us under. But through it all, the crew remained steadfast, driven by the promise of the secret island and the treasures it held. One night, as we sailed through a particularly rough patch of sea, Jack approached me with a concerned look. "Captain, the men are getting restless. They need to know we're on the right path." I nodded, understanding his concern. "Gather the crew. It's time for a meeting." As the crew assembled on the deck, I addressed them, my voice steady and reassuring. "Men, I know this journey has been difficult, and the sea has tested us at every turn. But we are closer than ever to finding the secret island. The stars have guided us this far, and I have no doubt they will lead us to our destination." The crew murmured in agreement, their spirits lifted by my words. Jack stepped forward, his voice carrying a note of encouragement. "We've faced worse and come out stronger. Stick together. and we'll see this through. With renewed resolve, we pressed on, navigating the treacherous waters with skill and determination. The journey was far from over, but the promise of the secret island and its treasures kept us moving forward, through the storms and the darkness, towards the unknown. It was a night unlike any other. The sea, which had been our steadfast companion, turned against us with a ferocity that none of us had ever experienced. The sky was a swirling mass of dark clouds, and the wind howled like a banshee, whipping the waves into towering walls of water that crashed against the hull of the sea serpent with relentless force. "All hands on deck!" I shouted, my voice barely audible over the roar of the storm. The crew scrambled to their positions, fighting to keep the ship steady. Jack, ever the reliable first mate, was at the helm, his muscles straining as he wrestled with the wheel. "Captain, this storm came out of nowhere," Jack yelled, his face illuminated by a flash of lightning. "We need to ride it out, or we'll be torn apart." "Hold her steady, Jack," I commanded, gripping the railing as the ship lurched violently. "We can't afford to lose control." Sarah, our navigator, was below deck, trying to keep our course. She emerged, drenched and determined, clutching the map. "Captain, the storm is pushing us off course. We need to adjust our heading or we'll be lost." "Do what you must, Sarah," I replied, trusting her instincts. "Just keep us on track." The crew worked tirelessly, battling the elements with every ounce of strength they had. The rain lashed at us, soaking us to the bone, and the wind threatened to tear the sails from their masts. But we held on, driven by sheer willpower and the knowledge that we had come too far to turn back now. Amidst the chaos, a sense of unease settled over me. There was something unnatural about this storm, something that felt almost malevolent. It was as if the sea itself was trying to keep us from reaching our destination. My thoughts were interrupted by a deafening crash as a massive wave slammed into the side of the ship, sending us reeling. "Brace yourselves!" I shouted, but my warning came too late. The force of the impact knocked several crew members off their feet, and I saw Billy, our youngest crew member, clinging desperately to a rope, his eyes wide with fear. "Help me!" Billy cried, his voice barely audible over the storm. "Hold on, Billy!" Jack bellowed, rushing to his aid. Together, we managed to pull him to safety, but the look in his eyes told me that the storm had shaken him to his core. As the night wore on, the storm showed no signs of abating. The waves grew larger, and the wind howled with an almost otherworldly fury. It was then, in the midst of the tempest, that something caught my eye. A flash of movement in the water, illuminated by a bolt of lightning. For a brief moment, I thought I was seeing things, but then it happened again. "Captain, did you see that?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "There's something in the water." I peered into the darkness, straining to see through the sheets of rain, and then I saw it, a massive shape, moving beneath the surface, its eyes glowing with an eerie light. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before, a creature of myth and legend come to life. "By the gods," I muttered, my heart pounding in my chest. "What is that?" The creature emerged from the depths, its massive body breaking the surface of the water. It was a terrifying sight, a monstrous blend of serpent and dragon, its scales glistening in the lightning flashes. Its eyes, filled with a malevolent intelligence, locked onto our ship, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "All hands, prepare for battle," I shouted, drawing my sword. "We have to defend the ship." The crew, though exhausted and battered by the storm, rallied to my call. Jack manned the cannons, his face set with grim determination. Sarah and Billy armed themselves, ready to face whatever horrors awaited us. The creature let out a deafening roar, a sound that seemed to shake the very foundations of the sea. It lunged at the ship, its massive jaws snapping inches away from the deck. We fired the cannons, the roar of the guns mingling with the thunder, but the creature seemed unfazed. "Keep firing," I commanded, slashing at the creature with my sword. "We have to drive it back." The battle was fierce and chaotic, the storm and the creature combining to create a nightmarish scenario. The waves crashed over the deck, and the wind tore at our sails, but we fought on. The creature's eyes burned with fury, and I could see the intelligence behind them. It was as if it knew we were after the secret island, and it was determined to stop us. "Captain, it's coming around again," Jack shouted, reloading the cannons. "We can't keep this up forever." "I know," I replied, my mind racing. "But we have to hold on. We can't let it destroy us." The creature lunged again, its massive body smashing into the side of the ship. Wood splintered, and the sea serpent groaned under the strain. But we fought on, driven by the knowledge that our only chance of survival lay in defeating this monstrous guardian. As the night wore on, the storm began to abate, but the creature's attacks grew more frenzied. It was a battle of endurance, a test of our resolve. And just when it seemed like we could fight no more, the creature let out a final, ear-splitting roar and retreated into the depths. The crew collapsed onto the deck, exhausted and battered, but alive. The storm had passed, and the sea was once again calm. But the memory of that night, and the creature we had faced, would haunt us for the rest of our journey. The morning after the storm, the sea was eerily calm, as if the chaos of the previous night had never happened. The sun rose slowly, casting a soft, golden light over the water, but there was no sense of peace among the crew. We were all haunted by the memory of the monstrous creature that had attacked us, and the damage to the sea serpent was a stark reminder of how close we had come to disaster. "Captain, the hull's taken a beating," Jack reported, his face grim as he surveyed the damage. "We'll need to make some serious repairs if we're to continue." "Do what you can, Jack," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "We can't afford to stop now. The island is out there, and we need to find it." The crew set to work, their movements slow and weary. The storm had taken a toll on all of us, and the encounter with the creature had left us shaken. As I walked the deck, checking on the progress of the repairs, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The memory of those glowing eyes, filled with a malevolent intelligence, was burned into my mind. "Captain," Sarah called out, approaching me with a concerned expression. "We need to talk." I nodded, leading her to a quieter part of the deck. "What is it, Sarah?" She glanced around, making sure we were out of earshot of the rest of the crew. "That creature. I've never seen anything like it. It was almost as if it was guarding something." "I've been thinking the same thing," I admitted. "The legend spoke of a guardian, but I never truly believed it until now." Sarah nodded, her brow furrowed in thought. "If that creature is the guardian of the island, it means we're on the right track, but it also means we're in more danger than we realized. We'll have to be prepared for anything," I said, determination hardening my resolve. "We can't let fear stop us." As the day wore on, the crew worked tirelessly to repair the ship. Jack supervised the efforts, his experience and steady hand keeping everyone focused. Billy, though still shaken from the night before, threw himself into the work with a newfound determination. "Captain, do you think we'll see that creature again?" Billy asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I don't know, Billy," I replied honestly. "But if we do, we'll be ready." By evening, the sea serpent was patched up enough to continue our journey. The crew gathered on the deck, their faces reflecting a mix of exhaustion and determination. We had survived the storm and the creature's attack, but we knew our journey was far from over. "All right, men," I addressed the crew, my voice carrying over the quiet murmur of the sea. "We've faced a great challenge, but we've come through it stronger. The island is still out there, and we will find it. Stay vigilant and be prepared for anything." The crew nodded, their spirits lifted by my words. As night fell, we set sail once more, the sea serpent cutting through the calm waters with a renewed sense of purpose. For several days, we sailed without incident. The sea was calm, and the weather was fair, but there was an underlying tension among the crew. The memory of the creature still lingered, and we knew that we were entering uncharted waters, both literally and figuratively. One afternoon, as we sailed under a clear blue sky, Sarah approached me with a troubled expression. "Captain, I've been going over the map again. There's something I need to show you." We gathered around the map, unfurling the ancient parchment on the deck. Sarah pointed to a series of symbols near the edge. "These symbols," I think they represent something more than just constellations. They might be a warning. A warning? Jack asked, his brow furrowed. What kind of warning? I'm not sure, Sarah admitted. But look at this. She traced her finger along a line of symbols that led to a particular spot on the map. This is where we encountered the creature, and if you follow this line, it leads directly to the island. So the creature was guarding the path to the island. I mused, my mind racing. It wasn't just a random attack. Exactly, Sarah confirmed, which means there might be more obstacles ahead. We'll need to be on our guard, Jack said, his voice steady. But at least we know we're on the right track. As we continued our journey, the crew remained vigilant, their eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of danger. The sea, though calm, felt ominous, as if it was hiding secrets just below the surface. One night, as we sailed under a star-studded sky, I stood at the helm, lost in thought. The encounter with the creature had changed everything. It was no longer just a quest for treasure. It was a battle for survival against forces we barely understood. Captain, do you think we'll find the island soon? Billy asked, joining me at the helm. I believe we will, Billy, I replied, my voice filled with conviction. But we must be prepared for whatever lies ahead. The days turned into weeks, and the journey grew more challenging. We encountered strange phenomena, sudden changes in the weather, eerie lights in the water, and unsettling sounds that seemed to come from the depths of the sea. Each of these incidents served as a reminder that we were venturing into the unknown, and that the path to the secret island was fraught with danger. One afternoon, as we sailed through a particularly dense fog, Sarah called out from the crow's nest, "Captain, I see something ahead." The crew rushed to the deck, peering through the mist. Slowly, a shape began to emerge, a small, rocky island, barely visible through the fog. Could this be it? Jack asked, his voice filled with anticipation. Only one way to find out, I replied, steering the ship towards the island. As we approached, the fog began to lift, revealing a desolate, rocky shore. It wasn't the lush, treasure-laden island we had hoped for, but it was a start. We anchored the ship and prepared to explore the island. The crew, though weary, was eager to set foot on solid ground. As we made our way ashore, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The memory of the creature's glowing eyes was never far from my mind. Stay alert, I warned the crew. We don't know what we might find here. As we explored the island, we found evidence that others had been here before us, old, weathered structures and remnants of campfires long extinguished. It was clear that we were not the first to seek the secret island, and that those who had come before us had faced their own challenges. "Captain, over here," Billy called out, pointing to a series of markings on a rock. "These look like the symbols on the map." We gathered around the markings, examining them closely. They were similar to the ones on the map, but more intricate, as if they held a deeper meaning. "These must be clues," Sarah said, her voice filled with excitement. "If we can decipher them, they might lead us to the island." As we worked to unravel the mystery of the markings, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The journey had been difficult, and the challenges we had faced were unlike anything we had ever encountered. But we were closer than ever to finding the secret island, and nothing would stop us from uncovering its mysteries. With the ship almost destroyed, our priority was survival. We spent days trying to repair the damage while keeping a vigilant eye on the horizon, fearing the return of the creature. Food and water began to run low, and the morale of the crew was at an all-time low. However, the desire to find the secret island still propelled us forward. The sea serpent lay anchored near the desolate island we had discovered, a temporary refuge as we worked tirelessly to make her seaworthy again. The crew, though exhausted and battered, pushed through their fatigue, driven by the hope of reaching the secret island and the treasures it promised. "Captain, the hull's been patched up as best as we can manage," Jack reported, wiping sweat from his brow. "But we're running low on supplies. We need to find fresh water and food, or we won't last much longer." I nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We'll form a search party and explore the island. There has to be something here we can use." Sarah, Jack, Billy, and I set off, leaving a skeleton crew to guard the ship. The island was rugged and unwelcoming, with jagged rocks and sparse vegetation. As we ventured inland, the air grew thick with the scent of salt and decay, and the ground became uneven and treacherous. "Keep your eyes peeled for anything useful," I instructed, scanning the terrain for signs of water or edible plants. After hours of searching, we stumbled upon a small, murky pond. It wasn't ideal, but it was water, and we had no other choice. "Looks like this is our best bet," Sarah said, kneeling by the water's edge. "We'll need to purify it, but it's better than nothing." We filled our canteens and set up a makeshift camp nearby, using what little resources we had to start a fire and boil the water. As night fell, the island took on an even more sinister atmosphere. The sounds of distant, unknown creatures echoed through the darkness, and the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. "Captain, do you think we'll ever find the island?" Billy asked, his voice small and uncertain. "I believe we will, Billy," I replied, trying to sound confident. "But we have to stay strong and keep pushing forward. We've come too far to turn back now." The night was long and restless. We took turns keeping watch, our senses on high alert for any signs of danger. The memory of the creature that had attacked us was never far from our minds, and the fear of encountering it again loomed over us like a dark cloud. At dawn, we resumed our search for food. The island's rocky terrain made it difficult to find anything edible, but eventually, we came across a patch of wild berries. They were small and bitter, but they would have to do. "Gather as many as you can," I instructed. "We'll need every bit of sustenance we can get." As we worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, and I found myself glancing over my shoulder more often than not. "Captain, look!" Sarah called out, pointing to a series of tracks in the dirt. "These tracks, they look fresh." We followed the tracks cautiously, our weapons at the ready. They led us to a small clearing, where we found the remains of an old campsite. The ashes of a long-dead fire and the remnants of makeshift shelters told us that others had been here before us. "Whoever was here didn't leave in a hurry," Jack observed, examining the site. "But they left behind some supplies. We gathered what we could: an old, rusty knife, a few tattered blankets, and a small stash of dried meat. It wasn't much, but it was something. "Let's head back to the ship," I said, feeling a sense of urgency. "We need to regroup and figure out our next move." As we made our way back to the Sea Serpent, the weight of our situation pressed heavily on my mind. We were running out of time and resources, and the journey ahead was fraught with unknown dangers. But despite the odds, I knew we had to keep going. Back on the ship, the crew welcomed us with a mix of relief and apprehension. The supplies we had found were quickly rationed, and we gathered on the deck to discuss our next steps. "Captain, we've done all we can to repair the ship," Jack reported. "But without more supplies, we won't last much longer." "We found some food and water on the island," I said, addressing the crew. "It's not much, but it will keep us going for a little while longer. We need to stay focused and keep moving forward. The secret island is out there, and we're closer than ever." The crew nodded, their spirits lifted by my words. Despite the hardships we had faced, there was a sense of camaraderie and determination that bound us together. We had survived the storm and the creature's attack, and we would survive whatever came next. As we set sail once more, the Sea Serpent creaked and groaned, a testament to the trials she had endured. The sea was calm, but the memory of the storm and the creature lingered in our minds, a constant reminder of the dangers that lay ahead. Days turned into weeks, and the journey grew more arduous. The food and water we had gathered from the island began to dwindle, and the crew's morale wavered. But through it all, we held on to the hope of finding the secret island and the treasures it promised. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and red, I stood at the helm, lost in thought. The journey had tested us in ways I had never imagined, but it had also brought us closer together. We were no longer just a crew. We were a family, united by a common goal. "Captain, do you think we'll make it?" Sarah asked, joining me at the helm. "I believe we will," I replied, my voice filled with conviction. "We've come too far to turn back now. The secret island is out there, and we'll find it. As night fell, the stars appeared one by one, twinkling in the vast expanse of the sky. The sea, though calm, felt ominous, as if it was hiding secrets just below the surface. But despite the challenges we had faced and the uncertainty that lay ahead, I knew that we would persevere. The struggle for survival had brought us to the brink, but it had also forged us into a stronger, more resilient crew. And as we sailed into the unknown, driven by the promise of the secret island and the treasures it held, I knew that we would face whatever came our way with courage and determination. During an inspection of the wreckage, I discovered a secret compartment in my map. Inside it, there was a crucial clue that we had not noticed before. It indicated that the secret island was not far, but it also carried a grim warning about the creature guarding its secrets. I realized that the monster we faced was the island's guardian, and our only chance of reaching it was to defeat the creature. The sea serpent was anchored in a calm bay, the crew working diligently to make further repairs and gather their strength. The encounter with the creature had left us shaken, but not broken. As captain, it was my duty to keep hope alive and guide us through the challenges that lay ahead. One morning, as the sun cast a golden glow over the tranquil waters, I decided to take a closer look at the ancient map that had guided us thus far. The map was old and worn, its edges frayed and its surface covered in cryptic symbols and faded ink. It had been passed down through generations of pirates, each adding their own notes and observations. I spread the map out on the captain's table, tracing the familiar lines and markings with my finger. There was something about the map that had always intrigued me, a sense that it held more secrets than it revealed. As I examined it closely, I noticed a small, almost imperceptible crease near the edge. Curious, I carefully lifted the corner of the map, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, there was a folded piece of parchment, yellowed with age. My heart raced as I unfolded it, revealing a series of intricate symbols and a detailed drawing of the island. "Jack, Sarah, come here," I called out, my voice filled with excitement. They hurried over, their eyes widening as they saw the hidden parchment. "What did you find, Captain?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. "A hidden clue," I replied, pointing to the parchment. "Look at this. It's a detailed drawing of the island, and these symbols, they seem to match the ones on the map." Jack leaned in, his brow furrowed in concentration. "These symbols, they look like some kind of code. Maybe they're directions or a warning." I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. "We need to decipher this. It could be the key to finding the island." We spent the next several hours poring over the parchment, comparing it to the map, and trying to make sense of the symbols. The crew, sensing the importance of our task, gathered around, offering their own insights and suggestions. "Look at this symbol," Sarah said, pointing to a series of interconnected lines. "It looks like a constellation. If we can match it to the stars, it might lead us to the island." "That makes sense," Jack agreed. "The stars have guided us this far. They must be the key." As night fell, we gathered on the deck, the sky a canvas of twinkling stars. Sarah, with her keen sense of navigation, began to match the symbols on the parchment to the constellations above. It was a painstaking process, but the excitement in the air was palpable. "There!" Sarah exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. "That constellation matches the symbol on the parchment. And look, there's another one." We adjusted our course, following the celestial clues laid out before us. The sea, once calm and inviting, began to change. The waves grew larger, and the wind picked up, as if sensing our intent and testing our resolve. "Hold steady, men," I called out, gripping the wheel tightly. "We're getting closer." Days turned into nights, and the journey grew more challenging. We encountered fierce storms that battered our ship and treacherous waters that threatened to pull us under. But through it all, the crew remained steadfast, driven by the promise of the secret island and the treasures it held. One night, as we sailed through a particularly rough patch of sea, Jack approached me with a concerned look. "Captain, the men are getting restless. They need to know we're on the right path." I nodded, understanding his concern. "Gather the crew. It's time for a meeting." As the crew assembled on the deck, I addressed them. my voice steady and reassuring. Men, I know this journey has been difficult, and the sea has tested us at every turn, but we are closer than ever to finding the secret island. The stars have guided us this far, and I have no doubt they will lead us to our destination. The crew murmured in agreement, their spirits lifted by my words. Jack stepped forward, his voice carrying a note of encouragement. We've faced worse and come out stronger. Stick together, and we'll see this through. With renewed resolve, we pressed on, navigating the treacherous waters with skill and determination. The journey was far from over, but the promise of the secret island and its treasures kept us moving forward, through the storms and the darkness, towards the unknown. As we sailed on, the hidden parchment revealed more of its secrets. The symbols and drawings began to make sense, forming a map within a map. It was a revelation that filled us with hope and determination. "Captain, look at this," Sarah said one evening, pointing to a series of symbols that formed a pattern. "It looks like a path leading to the island." I studied the symbols, my heart pounding with excitement. "You're right, Sarah. This is it. This is the path we need to follow." We adjusted our course once more, following the hidden path laid out before us. The sea, though still challenging, seemed to guide us, as if acknowledging our determination and resolve. One afternoon, as we sailed under a clear blue sky, I felt a sense of anticipation building. The island was close. I could feel it. The hidden parchment had led us this far, and I knew it would lead us the rest of the way. "Captain, do you think we'll find the island soon?" Billy asked, joining me at the helm. "I believe we will, Billy," I replied, my voice filled with conviction. "We've come too far to turn back now. The secret island is out there, and we'll find it." As night fell, the stars appeared one by one, twinkling in the vast expanse of the sky. The sea, though calm, felt ominous, as if it was hiding secrets just below the surface. But despite the challenges we had faced and the uncertainty that lay ahead, I knew that we would persevere. The revelation of the hidden parchment had brought us closer to our goal, and as we sailed into the unknown, driven by the promise of the secret island and the treasures it held, I knew that we would face whatever came our way with courage and determination. With the new information, we devised a plan to confront the creature. We used what remained of our resources to prepare traps and reinforce our weapons. We knew it would be a difficult battle, but the promise of ancient treasures and secrets gave us courage. When the creature finally reappeared, we were ready for the final showdown. The sea serpent sailed through the calm waters, the crew working with a renewed sense of purpose. The revelation of the hidden parchment had given us the direction we needed, but it had also confirmed our fears. The monstrous creature we had encountered was indeed the guardian of the secret island. To reach our destination, we would have to face it again, and this time, we had to defeat it. As we sailed, we gathered in the captain's quarters to devise our plan. The room was filled with the scent of salt and the creaking of the ship's timbers, a constant reminder of the perilous journey we were on. I spread the map and the hidden parchment on the table, the symbols and drawings guiding our strategy. "All right, men," I began, looking around at the faces of my trusted crew. Jack, Sarah, Billy, and the others were all there, their expressions a mix of determination and apprehension. "We know what we're up against. That creature is the guardian of the island, and it won't let us pass without a fight. We need to be smart about this," Jack said, his voice steady. "We can't just rely on brute force. We need a plan." Sarah nodded in agreement. "The creature is intelligent. It knows we're after the island. We need to use that to our advantage." Billy, ever eager to prove himself, spoke up. "What if we set traps? Use the ship as bait to lure it in, then hit it with everything we've got." "That's a good idea, Billy," I said, nodding. "We'll need to reinforce the ship and prepare our weapons. We can't afford to take any chances." We spent the next few days preparing for the battle. The crew worked tirelessly, reinforcing the hull with whatever materials we had left, sharpening our swords, and loading the cannons. We fashioned harpoons and nets, hoping to entangle the creature and limit its movements. Every man and woman on board knew their role, and the sense of camaraderie and determination was palpable. "Captain, the cannons are ready," Jack reported one evening, his face smeared with sweat and grime. "We've reinforced the hull as best we can. We're as ready as we'll ever be." "Good work, Jack," I replied, clapping him on the shoulder. "We'll need every bit of firepower we can muster." Sarah approached, her eyes filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. "I've been studying the map and the parchment. The creature seems to have a pattern. It patrols the waters around the island, but it always returns to a specific spot. If we can lure it there, we might have a chance." "Then that's what we'll do," I said, my mind racing with possibilities. "We'll use the ship as bait, draw it in, and hit it with everything we've got. We need to be quick and precise. There won't be any room for mistakes." As night fell, the crew gathered on the deck, the air thick with anticipation. The stars shone brightly overhead, a stark contrast to the dark waters below. We were ready, and we knew that the battle ahead would determine our fate. "All right, men," I addressed the crew, my voice carrying over the quiet murmur of the sea. "This is it. The creature will come for us, but we're ready. Stick to the plan, and we'll come out of this victorious. Remember, we're not just fighting for treasure. We're fighting for our lives." The crew nodded, their faces set with grim determination. Jack stood at the helm, his hand steady on the wheel. Sarah and Billy took their positions by the cannons, their eyes scanning the horizon for any signs of the creature. Hours passed, and the tension grew. The sea was calm, almost too calm, as if it were holding its breath in anticipation of the coming battle. Then, in the distance, we saw it, a ripple in the water, growing larger and closer with each passing moment. "Here it comes," Jack said, his voice low and tense. "Everyone get ready." The creature emerged from the depths, its massive form illuminated by the moonlight. It was even more terrifying than I remembered, its scales glistening, and its eyes burning with a malevolent intelligence. It let out a roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the sea, and I felt a chill run down my spine. "Fire the cannons!" I shouted, my voice cutting through the roar of the creature. The crew sprang into action, the cannons roaring as they unleashed a barrage of firepower. The creature recoiled, but it was far from defeated. It lunged at the ship, its jaws snapping inches away from the deck. "Harpoons now," I commanded, grabbing one of the makeshift weapons. Jack, Sarah, and Billy launched the harpoons, the sharp points embedding themselves in the creature's flesh. It roared in pain and fury, thrashing wildly as it tried to free itself. "Keep it steady," I shouted, gripping the wheel tightly. "We need to hold it in place." The crew fought with everything they had, the nets and harpoons holding the creature at bay. But it was a fierce and relentless opponent, its strength and fury seemingly endless. "Captain, it's breaking free," Sarah cried, her voice filled with desperation. "Hold on, Sarah," I replied, my mind racing for a solution. "We can do this." With a final, desperate effort, we unleashed the last of our firepower, the cannons and harpoons striking the creature with a force that shook the ship. The creature let out a deafening roar, its body convulsing as it struggled against the onslaught. "Keep firing," I commanded, my voice hoarse from shouting. "We can't let it escape." The battle raged on, the crew fighting with every ounce of strength they had. The creature's movements grew slower, its roars weaker, until finally, with a final, shuddering breath, it collapsed into the water, defeated. The crew let out a collective cheer, their exhaustion and relief palpable. We had done it. We had defeated the guardian of the island. "Captain, we did it," Jack said, his voice filled with awe. "Yes, we did," I replied, my heart swelling with pride. "But our journey isn't over yet. The island is still out there, and we need to find it." As we sailed on, the sense of accomplishment and determination carried us forward. We had faced the Guardian and emerged victorious. And now, the secret island and its treasures were within our reach. After an epic battle, we managed to defeat the creature. Exhausted, but victorious, we followed the last indications on the map and finally sighted the secret island. It was more magnificent than anything I could have imagined, with ancient ruins and treasures scattered everywhere. However, as we explored the island, we discovered that its secrets were even deeper and more dangerous than any of us could have predicted. Our journey was far from over, But that is a story for another day. The sea serpent sailed through the calm waters, the crew still buzzing with the adrenaline of our recent victory. The monstrous guardian had been defeated, and the promise of the secret island loomed ever closer. As the sun rose, casting a golden light over the horizon, we saw it, a lush, green island rising majestically from the sea, its shores lined with white sand and dense jungle. "There it is," I said, my voice filled with awe. "The secret island." The crew gathered at the railings, their eyes wide with wonder. After all the hardships and dangers we had faced, we had finally reached our destination. "Captain, look at that," Sarah said, pointing to a series of ancient ruins visible through the trees. "Those structures, they look ancient." "Indeed," I replied, my heart pounding with excitement. "Let's anchor the ship and prepare to go ashore. There's no telling what we might find." We anchored the Sea Serpent in a sheltered bay, the crew working with a renewed sense of purpose. The island was a sight to behold, its beauty almost otherworldly. As we prepared to disembark, I couldn't shake the feeling that our journey was far from over. The island held secrets, and we were about to uncover them. "All right, men," I addressed the crew, my voice steady. "We'll split into groups and explore the island. Stay alert and be cautious. We don't know what dangers might be lurking." Jack, Sarah, Billy, and I led the first group ashore, the sand warm under our feet. The air was thick with the scent of tropical flowers and the distant call of exotic birds. As we ventured into the jungle, the ancient ruins became more visible, their weathered stones covered in moss and vines. "Captain, look at this," Billy said, pointing to a series of carvings on one of the stones. "These symbols, they match the ones on the map." "You're right," I replied, examining the carvings closely. "These ruins must be connected to the treasure. Let's keep moving." We made our way deeper into the jungle, the dense foliage making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. The air was thick and humid, and the sounds of the jungle were almost deafening. Despite the challenges, there was an undeniable sense of excitement and anticipation among the crew. As we approached a clearing, we saw it, a massive stone temple, its entrance flanked by statues of ancient warriors. The temple was imposing, its walls covered in intricate carvings and symbols that seemed to tell a story. "This must be it," Sarah said, her voice filled with awe. "The heart of the island." "We need to be careful," I cautioned, my eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. There could be traps or other dangers inside. We approached the temple cautiously, our weapons at the ready. The entrance was dark and foreboding, but we knew we had to press on. As we stepped inside, the air grew cooler, and the light from the entrance faded, leaving us in near darkness. "Light the torches," I instructed, my voice echoing off the stone walls. The flickering light of the torches revealed a vast chamber, its walls covered in more carvings and symbols. At the center of the chamber stood a massive stone altar, and atop it, a chest adorned with gold and jewels. "Captain, look at that," Jack said, his eyes wide with excitement. "The treasure." We approached the altar, our hearts pounding with anticipation. The chest was heavy and ornate, its surface covered in intricate designs. As I reached out to open it, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. "Be careful, Captain," Sarah warned, her eyes scanning the chamber. "There could be traps." I nodded, my hand hovering over the chest. With a deep breath, I lifted the lid, revealing a treasure beyond our wildest dreams. Gold coins, jewels, and artifacts filled the chest, their brilliance almost blinding in the torchlight. "We did it," Billy said, his voice filled with wonder. "We found the treasure." But as we celebrated our discovery, a low rumble echoed through the chamber. The ground beneath us began to shake, and the walls seemed to come alive with movement. "What's happening?" Jack shouted, his voice filled with alarm. "The island, it's reacting to the treasure," Sarah said, her eyes wide with realization. "We need to get out of here now." We grabbed as much treasure as we could carry and ran for the entrance, the ground shaking violently beneath our feet. The jungle outside was in chaos, the trees swaying and the ground splitting open. "Back to the ship," I shouted, leading the way through the dense foliage. As we reached the shore, the sea serpent was still anchored in the bay. The crew on board shouting in alarm as they saw the island's upheaval. We scrambled onto the ship, our hearts pounding with fear and adrenaline. "Raise the anchor! Set sail!" I commanded, my voice steady despite the chaos around us. The crew sprang into action, the sea serpent cutting through the water as we sailed away from the island. The ground continued to shake, and we watched in awe as the island seemed to collapse in on itself, the ancient ruins disappearing beneath the waves. "We made it," Jack said, his voice filled with relief. "But what happened back there?" "The island was protecting its secrets," Sarah said, her voice thoughtful. "It wasn't just about the treasure. There were deeper secrets, ancient powers that we barely understood." As we sailed away, the crew gathered on the deck, their faces reflecting a mix of exhaustion and triumph. We had found the secret island and its treasure, but we had also uncovered secrets that were far more dangerous than we had anticipated. "Captain, what do we do now?" Billy asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. "We continue our journey," I replied, my voice filled with determination. "There are more treasures to be found, more mysteries to uncover. Our adventure is far from over." As the sea serpent sailed into the horizon, the sun setting in a blaze of orange and red, I knew that our journey had only just begun. The secret island had tested us in ways we could never have imagined, but it had also brought us closer together. We were a family, bound by our shared experiences and our unyielding determination to explore the unknown. The journey ahead was filled with uncertainty, but as we sailed into the unknown, I knew that we would face whatever came our way with courage and determination. The secrets of the island had been revealed, but there were still many more adventures waiting for us on the horizon.